There is a timeline where Pokémon ended and is remembered as a masterpiece. And then there is our timeline.
You serious?
Today, let's break down the psychology of why franchises refuse to die, even when they probably should. It's worth mentioning that Pokémon was meant to end in Generation 2, as stated in an interview by the Pokémon Company president Tsunekatsu Ishihara in an Iwata Asks feature on the official Nintendo site. I worked with the assumption that after we put out Gold and Silver, my work as far as Pokemon was concerned would be done. I didn't intend to make any more Pokemon titles. I even thought that once we entered the 21st century, it would be time for me to do something else entirely. I remember that when Gold and Silver were released, I felt like a burden had finally been lifted from my shoulders. We had our sights set on the finish line of Gold and Silver for so long, and now that we will finally complete the major series running right through from Red and Blue, I felt I could say to Tajiri-san, I fulfilled my duty. Once we were released Gold and Silver, and it was selling even faster than Red and Green, I couldn't very well get off the ride halfway from saying, nice work everyone, good luck from here on in. That was Ishihara's intention. Instead, Pokemon became arguably the most milked franchise of all time. For my curiosity, I went to check how many months are now, and there are more than 1,000 months by now. Come on, man. Wasn't the game supposed to be catch them all? If anything by now is cash them all. And by the way, Pokemon had literally people paying to buy a Pokeball Plus, about $50, to get a Mew in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Wow! Cash them all indeed. By the way, bear in mind that I used to like Pokemon, and my favorite mon of all being Mew. And for regular mons, an honorable mention going to Wobbuffet.
I can feel your anger.
I can't believe we're doing this shit again.
Do it.
I really can't.
I am defenseless.
I think I have to go for strength.
Drag me down with all of your hatred.
I think this thing is gonna assume that I'm just using. I need to bank on a crit, please.
Yes. Fulfill your destiny.
Holy shit.
The force is strong.
A fun fact is that in Gen 1 games, there was a glitch that you could use to capture a Mew in the wild. Feel free to search Mew glitch for more information about that. Anyways, returning to Gen 2 games, if you look at the overall patterns in the Gen 2 games, you will notice that they were clearly designed to end the franchise. This is also why those games had two regions, Johto and Kanto, to create a symbolic full circle in which you start your adventure in Johto, doing the gym challenge, also clearing out the leftovers of Team Rocket in the process, becoming the champion, at a point going to Kanto, with the gym leaders of Kanto having much better teams compared to the Gen 1 counterpart, particularly the early gym leaders, and after the gym leaders gauntlet in Kanto, You get access to Mon Silver, where you will find Red, representing the main protagonist of Gen 1 games, as the final boss. And the hardware limitations on Nintendo forced efficiency, which ironically strengthened overall the design of the games. Also, it's interesting to notice that several of the mons in Gen 2 games were meant to feature in Gen 1 games, however, they were postponed to the Gen 2 games instead. They were overall an improvement over Gen 1, and by latter disguised as a game. And now you might wonder how Pokémon is managing to milk this franchise so much. First and foremost, there is the sunk cost fallacy. People don't just like Pokémon, they have invested years into it. The game appeals to childhood nostalgia, and yes, this is why Pokémon does often remakes. Also, such games create a sense of social belonging. For example, Pokémon did insert trade evolution since Gen 1 to invite players to trade with friends and so on. And while Pokémon has overall lowered the quality of the games, and sort of people are gonna buy anyway, there is gonna be some kind of intermittent release that is good enough to keep attention of more people and keep the milking going. The psychological slot machine effect. Heck, that can be even seen in the game itself, with creating an addition to whatever mon is gonna appear in the grass, whatever. In many ways, it's similar to a slot machine. And overall, it's really more about brand momentum than creative vision when it comes to Pokemon, in which pretty much the story is the same, more or less. Like, for the starter, usually it's a choice between grass, fire, or water. Then there is the typical archetype like the regional bird, the early bug, whatever. Might change slightly the new mon, but yeah. There is gonna be the gene challenge or something equivalent to a gene challenge. You will run into some kind of evil team, as well as having some kind of rival during the story, and then you become the champion after defeating some kind of Elite Four, Osorta, and the champion in charge. The vast majority of Pokemon games are exactly like that. Sure, there might be some occasional deviations, but the main series games are essentially like that, more or less. This brings to the corporate layer, which is the Pokémon Company itself. It's a multi-billion ecosystem with games, anime, cards, merchandising. Heck, in the anime, they made Ash almost win a league to then losing to a mysterious trainer that magically has legendaries everywhere. Why? Because the Pokemon Company needed to milk more the anime, that's why. Sometime later, they finally did let Ash win, to then retire the character. Of course, they never evolved his Pikachu, because mascot of the franchise and more sales, etc. Yeah. Ending Pokemon would be like voluntarily turning off a Moni Vulcano for Pokemon Company, meaning that Pokemon has to keep somehow making new games, gimmicks, and so on to keep the tension up of customers, bringing amongst other things to the abomination that is Mega Starmie. Other gimmicks being also Z-moves, Dynamax, and more. The design also worsened over the course of the years. In the early gens, especially Gen 1, you can see there were much more monstrosity kind of design. Also noticeable in the portrait of the Pokemons by Sugimori. And come on, pocket monsters that did fit Pokemons much better, instead of the years that kind of monstrosity got reduced more and more, and creating monsters that don't look like Pokemons at all. When a franchise runs out of meaningful evolution, it starts inventing louder evolution. So, should have Pokemon ended in Gen 2? In my opinion, yes. You would have had a clean narrative arc, the legacy of the game would be preserved, and no BS like Mega Stormy. So, here is the real question. Do you want your favorite franchise to end on a high positive note? Or live forever and risk becoming Mega Stormy? Feel free to comment which franchise do you think should have ended early in the comment section. See ya!